Warning, the following podcast is intended for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised. If you are sensitive to any content or subject matter in films, I recommend looking up this film on doesthedogdie.com. It is a user-based database of extensive content warnings for pretty much every film you can think of. It basically gives you a heads up to all the potentially triggering topics a movie might have. Check it out and take care of yourself. Welcome back to We Creeps. I'm your host, Evan Exhumed. And just like before, every week I summarize and review a different horror film for people who are a little too squeamish or easily spooked to watch them, but still really enjoy the plot and often end up looking them up on Wikipedia or Googling the ending explained. We, of course, welcome horror movie fans all the same. We even welcome horror movie naysayers. I mean, I'm not going to judge you for being objectively wrong, and I'm here to help you along the way until you've come to the light or the darkness. However you want to see it, that's your journey and that's up to you. The film that I will be covering today is Cam. It's a 2018 film that was distributed by Netflix. It stars Madeline Brewer, Patch Derrig, Melora Walters, Devin Druid, and Imani Hakim. I really love this film. Yeah, I have sort of it's like a niche in horror now. It's like sex worker horror that I just really find so fascinating and interesting because it's such a culturally relevant topic, especially considering this film is about a cam model, a woman who does sort of explicit and lewd things on cam sites in order to get tips and money and however the systems work. And I just really like sort of inserting a horror narrative into this and having the protagonist be sort of faced with something that is horror adjacent. So it's got some gore in it, but nothing super extreme. And if you can catch it, I definitely recommend it. But otherwise, that's what I'm here for. So let's go ahead and get started on this 2018 Netflix distributed film, Cam. The film starts with our protagonist, Alice/Lola. I'm just going to go ahead and call her Alice, but she is a cam model on a free site where you pay tokens and she will do specific acts, and the tokens are basically money. And so she's kind of just doing her thing. She's hopping around like a bunny. She's getting tokens to spank herself, just sort of lewd requests. And, she seems to be having a good time. And the room she's in is quite nice. And it's, very frilly and pink. And she's about, probably in her early to mid 20s. And so one of the people in the chat room starts telling her to kill herself. And so she blocks them and it sort of keeps escalating. The person keeps coming back and he's like, I want to watch you bleed. I want to watch you die. And as the audience, we're a little scared for her because men are terrifying. Alice seems to be really provoked by this guy. She keeps engaging with him and he's sort of edging her on. Unfortunately, she pulls out a large Bowie knife, like from Scream. And she's like, I'll fucking do it. I'll kill myself right now. And the creepy guy in the chat room says, yeah, do it. Kill yourself. And so she slashes her throat right on cam. And everyone is just freaking out in the chat room. And a couple seconds go by and you're just like, what the hell has happened here? Girl, this ain't worth no damn tokens. And you see that she actually faked it. It was all a bit. And she pulls off a fake skin prosthetic or something from her neck. That's where the blood came out, kind of giggles. And then, then you have the title sequence come up, Cam. What a great title sequence opener. I mean, when I first saw this movie, I was quite shocked at what had happened. And I thought that Alice was just going to be like an introductory character for what the rest of the movie was going to be. But no, this is our protagonist. And so that is one opener that I really loved. So after we see the title, we step into what Alice kind of does after the whole situation. And she ends up webcamming with a man who goes by the name of Tinker. He's kind of like middle-aged, late 30s, probably kind of stereotypical kind of geek. He was part of the situation. He was the one edging her on to kill herself. He's like kind of a simp for her, as the kids say. And she kind of used him to help promote herself. She's trying to be in the top 50 of all the cam girls. And that's kind of her goal, is to just sort of rise these ranks of this cam girl website. She's really friendly with him. And she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. And she's very personal with him, asking about his job hunt. And she gets some dinner. And as she's about to eat it, she gets messaged by another person who we can kind of assume pays her more. And so she's like, oh, I gotta go. I'm just gonna go relax, maybe take a bath or something. Like, thanks so much for supporting me. And she cuts the communication with this tinker dude to speak to this other guy. And so it's kind of interesting too, because it is making commentary on just sort of the parasocial relationships that a lot of men have with sex workers and OnlyFans people and cam models. And, you can kind of see with the tinker person that there is that kind of loneliness and desire for connection with him, especially considering how she's asking about his life and stuff. But at the end of the day, this is a business. This is a person providing a service rather than an actual legitimate, fully tangible relationship. So she switches from Tinker to this other guy named Barney, who's a little bit older, bald. Same whole experience, the whole girlfriend experience that she's providing these men. And she gets in the bath eating her sushi, and he just keeps tipping her. And then we go ahead and cut to her family, her mother, Lynn, and her brother, Jordan. It looks like that she's visiting them. The mom owns like a salon or works in a salon. Doesn't really know about her life, it seems. And she's like, oh, well, tell me about this new guy you're texting all the time. And she's like, oh, I don't want to talk about him because you'll just try to steal him for yourself. And so we kind of get an idea that Alice cares about her family and she interacts with them, but she isn't necessarily telling them exactly what her life is, which is a pretty common experience for a lot of people who are in sex work. However, her younger brother Jordan seems to be pretty supportive of it. He doesn't seem to be really fazed by it. She lets him know that she did the throat slitting thing and that she's trying to make the top 50. He's also about 17, just for reference. So Alice is projected to reach the top 50 at this point. So she goes to like Party City to buy a bunch of stuff. In the background, we also see some creepy guy looking at her, which could be the tinker person that we referenced earlier. It's kind of unclear. So Alice gets ready for her new show, her cam show that she's going to be doing that night to try and reach that top 50. She also has a conversation with another sex worker, cam girl, about trying to get even higher and what she would need to do. She suggests going to some dungeon and using this thing called the Vibatron, which I guess like is just like a crazy, insane Hitachi that like, quote, destroys your clit. And so there, it's just you kind of also are just getting an idea of like how you kind of have to continuously escalate your content in order to maintain the fan base and continue to make money. She also sets up a date with the guy Barney, the one that she ditched Tinker for. So they set up like a dinner date at a restaurant that's near both of them or halfway. We then watch her get fully ready, light candles, set up the space for her cam show where she tries to break that top 50. So she's doing her celebration show. She has like a steak dinner. She's dressed in something cute. And, the comments are asking her to like be silly with her food a little bit. And she's eating the steak with her hands. And she reaches the top 50 and she pulls a little handle and confetti comes and she's celebrating. But at the same time, we learn that Alice does not do full nudity, which is important because another cam model named Princess, she only really comes up once, she starts to sort of mock Alice on her cam page that she doesn't do nudity. And so she herself starts getting nude, takes advantage of sort of the momentum that Alice has and starts getting nude, and all of her followers start going to this princess woman. This is obviously very upsetting for Alice, and she ends up dropping, I think, 10 ranks from 50 to like 60. And Alice tries to kind of save face and is like, oh, congratulations, we did it. I'm going to go now. And she's, really upset about this and she feels a little panicked. So this sort of motivates her to escalate, and she goes to the dungeon to do the Vibatron thing with her friend that she had referenced earlier. There's just so much good commentary on cam modeling and sex work, and sort of can tell that Alice does not want to escalate in this way, really. And it seems like she's kind of being forced to in order to promote herself and get to a higher spot that inevitably will get her more money. Shortly before she goes, though, she gets a call from this tinker dude who called her direct line. And she's like, how did you get this number? And he's like, well, I only use it for emergencies. And she accuses him of stalking her at the Dollar Tree Party City place. Seems like that was him and that he's moved to the area and trying to locate there so he can spend more time with her. And she just kind of cuts him off. You've crossed a boundary. And so she hangs up on him. And then she goes to do this show. So she does the show with the friend who's controlling the vibration machine. The audience is like kind of edging her and teasing her a bit. And it's actually really funny because as this is happening, there's another sex worker at this dungeon who's showing two different menus. Like, do you want Thai food for dinner or like Italian? And so I think that's a really great reality check to show that even though she's doing like sort of this extreme, sexual play, she's still just, this is just really for the audience, and that she herself is not really fully in it. And we can kind of see in the cinematography that she's a little anxious and stressed and not really like enjoying herself very much, just the way that the camera moves. And I think that it's really trying to hammer down the fact that this is like a job for her. And that's not to say that she's never enjoyed it or anything like that, but we are being sort of fed an idea that she is escalating beyond her comfort zone in order to sort of appeal to her fans and maintain this lifestyle that she has. The next morning, Alice is waking up and she goes to log into her free cam account, and the password is incorrect. And so she's like, that's interesting. And she goes to reset the password and the email has been changed. So now we're actually starting to get into the horror of this movie. So she goes and checks her account to see what's going on with it, see if somebody hacked her. And it looks like she's online. And she clicks her profile, and who do we see? Fucking Alice, same human being, in a little kid's play pool doing her job. And we know that the real Alice is just standing there in her sweatpants, just waking up. And this is just where the we're like, what is happening? We're like, how is this? Is like an old video? Is this something like that? And so she's just like, what the fuck? And she can hear something in her house. So she goes to check and goes into her little workroom, and her TV's just on and everything looks like it's being filmed, but there's nobody there. And so she's freaking out, and she goes ahead and calls the support line to figure out what the hell is happening. And of course, the help support line have no idea what they're doing. She gets moved up multiple tiers of support, but they're just like, yeah, we can't really do anything. I mean, this person logged in, reset the password. This is what seems to be a real person doing this stuff. So your guess is as good as ours. And so she's just like at a loss for words as to what to do. So she ends up going to get some support from her other sex worker friends who are all like really confused about it. And they try creating like fake accounts to try to talk to this person. And they're like, well, maybe it's like a video, like a recording or something. And so they ask the fake Alice to like say orange. They tip her 50 tokens and she says orange like multiple times. And it's just so real. And it's freaky. It's like, what is the explanation behind this? So she tries the tech support again using like a recovery password, and that recovery password gets changed. And so she's kind of freaking out because all of her money is stored in that account. So she's able to transfer it over. So this is not looking good for her in terms of her finances and her livelihood. So she ends up going to her mom and just for like a casual visit and to drop off her brother's present that's for the party later. And we see Tinker come to her mother's work. And Tinker is like, oh man, I had such a good time with you last night. I'm so happy that you want to do this. And so this implication means that this fake version of Alice is contacting her clients like Barney and Tinker and is establishing relationships with them and saying that she wants more with them, likely to get more money. So it seems like whatever this entity is, it's trying to extract something from these people. And so Alice is very upset by this and kicks Tinker out of her mom's salon. She then goes back home and tries to re-sign up for a new account to, because again, this is her job. And she uses an ID, she takes a picture, and the site says that this person is already registered, so you're not allowed to sign up for another account. She then goes and looks at the fake Alice, and we can see the fake Alice is now in a public library doing flashing and touching herself, things that Alice would not do herself, and she finds boundary breaking for herself. And we're given the implication that this clone or copycat is escalating the content that Alice is appearing to be doing. We then jump to her brother's birthday party, and we can see that his friends or classmates or something are watching these videos of Alice as she walks in to her mom's house. So definitely a boundary violation from those friends. Fuck those friends. So Alice goes to mingle a little bit with the party goers and, her old classmate who decides to come. And as this is happening, we see a fight break out between Jordan, her little brother, and his shitty friends. And the phone drops in that scuffle, and we see Alice, the fake Alice, doing some sort of cam modeling stuff. This is where her mother learns that she's a cam model, and it's just a very embarrassing moment for her, embarrassing for her brother, who's still very supportive. Her mom's just like shocked and is just like, let's just do the cake. Let's just sing your brother happy birthday. And so they move on to do that. And, Alice, of course, being humiliated, just leaves and goes home to check out what the hell this fake Alice is doing. So as Alice is watching the fake version of herself rise the ranks, she actually beats the top 50 and ends up in top 30 because this not real or potentially weird sci-fi thing version of herself, this clone or whatever, is escalating and doing more and more kinky stuff, and it's causing her to rise the ranks of the campsite. Alice starts to kind of experiment with it a little bit, and she gets a little obsessive about it. She starts donating tokens to get her to do like more extreme things like hitting herself, and she ends up actually putting in her credit card and buying like 1,000 tokens to make her hit herself like 100 times or something. And so the fake Lola starts to escalate even more, and these people online tipping her are asking her to hurt herself in more violent ways. And the fake Alice eventually goes like, oh, what about this? And she pulls out a fucking gun. And so she starts to like suck the gun, and more people like are tipping her. And eventually they tip her like 10,000 tokens or something to shoot herself in the fucking head. And the fake Alice shoots herself in the head and presumably dies. And it's just really shocking. And real Alice is just totally freaked out. She just doesn't know what to do. She's like, what happened? Who's this person? And then the person just magically comes back to life, and there's kind of a glitch in the screen. So that's kind of a clue as to what might be happening here. And so she calls the cops and is like, hey, this is person basically was doing this snuff stuff on the campsite. And of course, the police aren't helpful. And then one of them makes like a weird comment about how much money she makes and what kind of weird stuff she does. So they are just entirely unhelpful. So the fake Alice announces on her cam stream that she's going to be doing a duet show with this other model named Baby Girl. So this gives real Alice the idea to contact Baby Girl and figure out who this person is, maybe that she can meet up with Baby Girl and surprise this copycat, this demon, this entity or whatever it is. And so she does some looking around and ends up calling some of her friends to try to get Baby Girl's real name or real address or anything. And her friends are like, well, we'll get back to you. We're busy. And she knows that Barney, the guy that she's supposed to get dinner with later, knows Baby Girl. So she ends up going to that dinner in order to get some more information. So she has dinner with him at this Mexican restaurant, and she begins to pry a little bit more information out of him. And she learns that this Baby Girl person was prom queen of Oler, Georgia or something, and that he met her a while back, and just a few other things that kind of are going to help her research this person. And she quickly goes to the restroom and is notified that Lola, or fake Alice, is online, and so is Barney. He sees the notification on his phone, and he gets really confused and really creepy, and he knocks on the door in the bathroom to talk to her, and he ends up kind of like assaulting her, trying to physically restrain her to try to figure out what's going on, and she bites him and escapes. And then that's when she begins to look up stuff about this Baby Girl person. She finds out through looking up her yearbook photo and finding her real name that this Baby Girl woman actually died, and whoever is now filming with fake Lola / Alice is not the actual Baby Girl. It's some other person or clone or something. And while she's watching the show of these two people who may or may not exist, they're actually going through her house, like this fake Alice and fake Baby Girl. They're going through Alice's actual real house in the cam footage, but Alice is in her house and there's nobody there. So somehow, whatever this entity or force is, has used footage or something, or maybe hacking her phone or something. I don't know. But she's able to like replicate this. And at one point, the fake Alice actually makes a comment about her brother and shows like the picture to the cam. So, I mean, this is just, I mean, holy shit, what a fucking nightmare. So she ends up going to her mom's house to, I don't know, talk to her about the whole situation. And her mother runs into her and as actually kind of supportive. She ends up being like, I think that you do a pretty good job. And I saw some of your videos and, it's kind of nice to see you be real dolled up and classy. And I'm not as backwards as you think I am. Also, her brother is there and he's still quite mad at her. So she ends up doing some more research and notices that baby girl died 6 months ago. So this is also revealing that the film takes place in about 2015, 2014. And she notices that all the cam shows that baby girl have done with other women in the last 6 months all have one thing in common. And that is Tinker, the creep. He all follows them all. So she goes to his fucking motel that he's staying at in town to approach him about this. So she finds his little hotel room and, tells him, hey, somebody stole my show. You've probably seen some of this. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll take care of you, baby. Like, I'm here to help you. And so he lets her stay there and she spends the night because she doesn't really feel safe anymore, especially with people knowing where she lives potentially. And she wakes up hearing some of the noises from her shows and she catches him in the bathroom jerking off to the fake Alice. So he's sitting there beating off to fake Alice, knowing that the real Alice is there. And so she tases him, which I thought was an appropriate response because he's such a fucking creep. And we learn that he's not necessarily responsible for any of this stuff, but it seems some kind of entity or force or some sort of online thing basically copies these girls, and this happens on all cam sites, and takes over their accounts and sort of profits off their image. And he is just kind of able to tell when it's going to happen. And so he kind of tracks those people. But otherwise, like, he doesn't actually know what it is. So she actually confronts on the webcam the clone Alice or the fake Alice and is like, hello. And the fake Alice does not even recognize her. She just sees her as another human being or whatever and is like, oh, are you Tinker's girlfriend? Blah, blah, blah. Do you want to play? And so Alice is just like, holy shit, this whatever this is doesn't even recognize who I am. And so she, tells Tinker to fuck off basically and rushes home. She then logs on to another account that she's created and pays money to do a private show with the fake Alice. And she's like, oh, I'm actually really into being watched. So I want this private show to be public. And Alice is going to try to break the system or break whatever it is. And she's like, let's play a game of monkey see, monkey do. I do something and then you copy it. And meanwhile, everyone who's a real person sees that they're exact identicals and are like freaking out. And there's like tons of tokens and tips being sent. And so there's a lot of just like chaos happening. Finally, they do kind of like a competition to see who gets more votes at doing the same thing. And one of the things that Alice does is slams her head super hard on the table and just like over and over. And it actually fucks up and breaks her nose. She's like bleeding from her face. And we notice that the fake Alice, initially coming back up from hitting her face onto the table, doesn't have any injuries, but there's like a little bit of a glitch. And then all of a sudden she matches. So she takes advantage of this. And in addition, she says, hey, let's make a bet. Whoever gets the most tokens or wins or whatever, you get whatever you want. And so Alice, the real Alice, says, if I win, I get your account password. And so the fake Alice is like, I don't know about that. But everybody in the chat is like, yeah, do it. So the fake Alice is beholden to these creeps and they go ahead and do that. And so Alice wins and is sent the password. And so she quickly logs into the account and deletes the fake Alice and exhales, shuts off the show, and has won against whatever the fuck this is. And I will explain what I think it is in a moment. So probably a week or two goes by. We get a little jump cut to that. And she's looks like her nose is mostly recovered, but it is permanently broken, basically. Like it's she's going to need surgery if she wants to get that fixed. And we see her visit her mom, and her mom helps her with her makeup for her new show. And her mother asks her, do you think this is a good idea to do it again? And so she's just like, well, if this happens again, I know how to beat it. And I'm just going to keep making new profiles. And, this is just what I'm going to do. So it's kind of nice to see that her mom is like supportive. It's unfortunate that we don't see any closure with her brother, but I'm sure he gets over it. And so she restarts her cam profile as a new identity. She actually has a new ID. She goes by Eve now. And it just, counts down to her going live. And then once it goes live, the movie ends. You might be wondering, what the fuck was the other Alice? And I did too for a bit. And I wasn't sure if it was like a paranormal situation or what. But seeing what people are doing now with like AI and all those different tools, I really feel like this was a super advanced deep fake that some sort of bad person uses to steal the identities and accounts of these cam girls and uses that to basically just fund themselves. And there's not really a lot at stake for them. There's, they don't have to perform any of these acts, and they can keep escalating and getting higher on the ranks and just make all this money. So that's my theory, especially considering like all the glitching that happens with the fake Alice. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of We Creeps. We will have another new episode next week. In the meantime, feel free to reach out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. I've got it all. It's all linked in my link tree, which you can find in the description, or just by going to wecreeps.com. We've also got a Patreon and t-shirts if you want to support the podcast directly. Really appreciate that to my loyal and lovely Patreons. And after watching this movie, I honestly think I'm going to go touch some grass, and I recommend that you do the same. But while you're doing that, make sure that you wear sunscreen, and also don't forget to stay spooky out there.